I want to jump to this tweet from Stephen Miller. He says the commentary about NYC Democrats nominating an anarchist socialist for mayor omits one point: how unchecked migration fundamentally remade the New York City electorate. Democrats change politics by changing voters. That's how you turn a city that defined U.S. dominance into what it is now. And we have this from Zohran Mamdani's platform, Trump Proofing NYC, which I will read. He says, Donald Trump is tearing the fabric of New York City in his second term. He has deployed ICE agents to pluck New Yorkers from their families. He has sent already high prices skyrocketing with tariffs. And he has threatened vital social services that working New Yorkers rely on every day. Zohran Mamdani will fight Trump's attempts to gouge the working class and deliver a city where everyone can afford a dignified life. He'll ensure our immigrant New Yorkers are protected by strengthening our sanctuary city apparatus, getting ICE out of all city facilities and ending any cooperation, increasing legal support, protecting all personal data. He'll make NYC an LGBTQIA sanctuary city and protect reproductive rights. He'll also protect workers and ensure our current laws are enforced by increasing the budget of DCWP and the New York City Commission on Human Rights and muscling up our law department. I'll put it this way. Imagine there is a small campsite with 10 buildings and a large fence around it. Each building has a family. They were all friends. They've lived there for 100 years. One day, a group of people break through the gate and occupy 5 of those buildings. Those people in those 5 buildings are saying, we live here now and we should stay. Well, the other half of the property, which is the original owners, nominate a guy to lead them who says, I'm going to drive these people out of our campsite. Now, just think about it simply. The people who are there, the people who came there illegally, band together and say, that guy's going to try to kick us out. We must stop him. What people need to understand in terms of the perspective on this, Donald Trump is not targeting immigrants. He is targeting illegal immigrants, people who are violating the law. But outside of that even, what Zohran Mamdani is saying is anyone who is here doesn't have to follow U.S. law. We've broken the law to come here, and we will not allow law enforcement to protect their own nation. Let me stress this again. PR is everything. The narrative being driven by Zohran Mamdani is that we are just simple families living in New York. Let me restructure that statement. Illegal immigrants who illegally entered our country are banding together to assert that they will not allow the United States to defend its own nation. That's what they're saying when they say sanctuary. Now, would you tolerate a gang breaking into your house and then arguing amongst themselves about how they're going to stop you from protecting your home and your family? That's what's happened, and that's what's happening right now. Stephen Miller makes an interesting point, but the question then is, how do you remedy it?
Thankfully, Donald Trump has shown that he is willing to call in the Marine Corps.
I don't know that Donald Trump is willing to call in the Marine Corps to start mass deporting people by the truckload. And
No, they'll just defend the ICE agents that are actually doing the deporting.
ICE so far has not been able to deport enough people.
No, they haven't been able to deport nearly enough. But that doesn't mean that we should stop, or it doesn't mean that we shouldn't try.
Well, if you want New York to resemble what it did when the U.S. attained global dominance and became the unipolar power, you have and the left always jumps to the race thing because the ill-informed don't understand ideologies, and race is easy for them to understand. I don't care. Actually, Tucker Carlson put it well. The interests of Black Americans are the same as any other American. Why would you even bring race up? The issue is that foreign-born who come to this country, whether legally or illegally, have a very different ideology to America. Hence, Zohran wants totalitarian, fascistic governance. And the people who come here say, I don't care, just give me free stuff.
And Tim, that's why when you're illegal, you have to go through a citizenship process. And that citizenship process requires you to understand the Constitution, our system of government. So if you go around that, to your point,
Zohran is legal. Yeah. And he's a communist.
No, I know that. But I'm saying to your point that this is basically an illegal immigrant island. And because they came illegally, they don't have to go through that filter of understanding our system.
The idea that some may come out like he is being a communist, but many others come here hopefully holding American values.
If you come here legally and you go through the process and then you go through the citizenship process, I mean, I don't know what the stats are, but let's just say we've been doing that for a long time and it's been working out.
And that's my point. And they start businesses and they enter the community. But he wants you to both live here, but he doesn't want you to own your business because he wants to shut down your bodega so that you can go to the food lines, go to the bread lines, right? It's also why they obfuscate the use of, why they omit the word illegal in that phrase so that you conflate the two. And most of it ends up being a losing factor for Americans anyways, because so much white guilt has been placed on this country in relation to immigration that they're not going to push back on this stuff for fear of being called racist because you believe that if you come here illegally, you have committed a crime and you should not do that.
Republicans have largely been unwilling, and conservatives in general, to do what needs to be done in this country to maintain its values, its system of governance, and provide for the next generation. Democrats have been wholly willing to do literally anything, up to and including murdering people, shooting them in the streets of Portland or at the Chaz Chop in Seattle. Aaron Danielson shot and killed. The kids at the Chaz Chop shot and killed. Molotov cocktails given out. And what happens with their the legal system in place? Sweetheart deals for those who push violently their ideology. The right did nothing. They won't even engage in any kind of subterfuge or PR campaigns. They largely just stand upright and say, but we are honorable. Yeah. And the left says you can be whatever you want to be when we have the power.
That's what it kind of came up the other night when people were talking about Charlie Kirk's characterization of him as a Muslim socialist, and people are saying, "Why are you bringing up his religion? What does that have to do with any of this?" And I said, "Yes, I get it. That's a fair characterization because it's not really the point. But the thing is they're going to use their identity again as a cudgel, as a weapon, and it doesn't matter to them if you're honorable because they are going to use everything in their power to take what you have, and they do not care if you're honorable. Honorable doesn't matter if you end up dead in a ditch."
Charlie Kirk's point, as I interpreted it, was he tweeted something like it was 24 years ago that radical Islamic terrorists destroyed 2 massive skyscrapers, killing 2,754 people. And within the span of a couple decades, the city has nominated for their mayor a foreign-born Muslim socialist. A lot of the left are going to be like, how dare you? That's so wrong. I literally don't care. The point taken is look at the radical ideological shift over 2 decades. I don't care if he was a Japanese communist or a Buddhist who wanted to build a bunch of monks on the top of all the skyscrapers. The point is, since 9/11, the ideological makeup of New York City has flipped in a massive way that no one would have expected in 2 decades.
Yeah, and to your point, Tim, we have case studies. Again, we have Europe. So I think the UK is the best case study. Look at Londonistan. The place is the mayor's Muslim. There's all kinds of public officials that are Muslim. Look what's happening there. Rape gangs, all kinds of violence, Sharia law in the city, all kinds of stuff.
You'll go to jail if you say naughty words.
Yeah, well, exactly, right. And for the let's say indigenous people, you if you say something, all of a sudden if you say something on social media, to your point, you're going to jail. So we know this doesn't work. We're watching Britain sink into the ocean right in front of us, and that's why I agree with you, Tim, about let this happen to New York, but it's so painful to watch New York turn into London.
Well, I'll be honest. I have literally no problem with Donald Trump using the DOJ to go after. Look, if Zoran gets elected and he literally says we will defy federal law, then he should be indicted and charged with sedition.
Hell yeah.
The DOJ should go in and remove him and federalize the city if they have to. Listen, we have federal law. I don't care what the left and the liberals say. I've explained this a couple of years ago. You may as well be France arguing about the state of the American government. When these socialists, these commies, these far left people say, well, you're arguing for fascism. No, you are not part of what we are talking about. We over here are talking about the United States of America. We have laws. We have a federal government. The laws that were passed say illegal immigrants get deported. You in New York, as a system of governance, are saying you will violate American law. Well, then that's called sedition.
Right.
And we will send in the DOJ and Donald Trump to arrest you for sedition, remove you. You will lose your authority, creating a crisis where the federal government's going to have to federalize your city and have new elections. And if the next guy comes in and says, we too will violate federal law, then you say, okay, Let's roll. Sedition again. But if the Republicans are unwilling to do this, then you just lose. Because the left has, if we keep playing this game of pendulum swing, what do we get? The pendulum swings to the right, and they stop and they say, slow down there, Democrats. The pendulum goes left, and they go, quick, smash all the windows out. Then it swings back to the right, and they say, stop. Basically, every time the Republicans win, it's a timeout. And every time the Democrats win, it's smashing and burning.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I've said, like, with the Trump administration, no matter what they do as far as immigration goes, the birthright citizenship case with the Supreme Court is all that matters. Because that's literally whatever progress you make on immigration, it's going to all get undone if you don't get rid of birthright citizenship.
Yep.
Because it's like that the idea of birthright citizenship is it just divides the world between Americans and future Americans. And you can't operate a country like that. Like, the left plays this game where they pretend like the composition of your country is like not up for discussion. And it's like, well, if you go to Michigan and there's towns there that are entirely Islamic, like, I think that's a pretty
Dearborn.
valid, I think that's a pretty valid concern to have of what is the composition of my
people
country.
cheering death to America and rooting for Iran, right? In our own country, in Michigan, in our own country.
It's not just it's not only is it normal for the population in a democracy, in a democratic, republic we have, it's not only normal for people to say, well, this is what I prefer the makeup of my first of all, my neighborhood and community and state and country to be. But that's something that's been normal for all of human history.
Yeah.
The idea that just because now it's, 2025 and this is a totally novel idea. So maybe the past 25 years where people will openly say, no, it doesn't matter who comes to your country. You just have to let everyone in. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what they think. Doesn't matter what they believe. Doesn't matter how they want to organize their society. You just have to let them in. And if you don't, then you're an illiberal, racist, whatever they want to call it. All of that stuff is all novel. And it is totally foreign to human society.
Do you remember when Ron DeSantis, it was one of my favorite moments, when DeSantis released a bunch of people onto Martha's Vineyard?
Yeah, it was great.
Right?
NIMBY.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And what is it, like American liberals or the American left are the only group with the white American liberals are the only group with an out-group bias, meaning that they do not prefer those of their own race makeup, right? So that's kind of, you take that to the extreme in this country, and it's the idea that you can't have a say or a belief that there should be some type of limit to who and what is allowed into your country, because having that discussion at all is just basically tacitly admitting to them, if you play by their rules, that you're a racist in some way, shape, or form. So people won't even have the discussion.
Yeah, well, look how white liberals idolize like the Bourdain going to a third world country and like I'm so enlightened that I'm here. I'm indulging in this cuisine. It's like they just absolutely hate everything about America, and they like view Lagos as this like society that we should look up to and that sort of thing. And it's like, that's what it comes down to, is they have a hatred towards it's one thing to have an in-group preference. It's another thing to have a hatred to your group, which is just an indication of how you view yourself as an individual. And yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, I mean, that's what it comes back to with immigration. Because like, for example, in the last election, immigrants, it was 60-40 Kamala. 60% of immigrants voted for Kamala, and with the second generation, it didn't really budge. So it's like this is what frustrates me about the GOP, is they like have this hunch that one day we'll win immigrants over because we'll just win them over with free market economics. And it's like, look at Zoran. He's literally doesn't give a rip about any economics textbook that's out there. He just cares about destroying the city for the sake of destroying the city, in the same way that the Soviets would drain lakes and burn down forests just because they hated nature. So it's like, yeah, we can't go off of a hunch and hope we're going to win them over. It's like, no, we just need to be realistic. And like Matt Walsh said, maybe start tapering back the
moratorium.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.